It's Dr. Billy. We're on Chapter 7, the Business Ethics Essentials, and I am just going to give you just a quick overview of what I would like for you to know for the quiz Excel. It's so just condensing all the materials of Chapter 7 down to what you will be tested on. Business ethics have become a serious challenge over several decades. And mostly because of the major ethics scandals that have taken place in Wall Street financial scandals. So the Enron scandal has been known or considered the most notorious of all. And the impact of the Enron scandal has been dubbed the Enron effect. So Enron in particular, the legal ethical charges and convictions were securities fraud, conspiracy to inflate profits, and corporate corrupt culture. And the person who was convicted, one person in a Wall Street scandal, was Bernie Madoff, and that's another very well-known person that was implicated. He had the Madoff Investment Securities Company. And he was actually convicted of a $17.3 billion Ponzi scheme. Public's opinion of business ethics it's really hard to judge because we don't know if it actually has declined or just seems so, because the media are reporting ethical problems much more frequently. But it seems that the majority of Americans do not think the need for ethics is the same as it was, say, 50 years ago. Some basic concepts of business ethics that you need to know is that it is concerned with rightness, wrongness, fairness, or justice of actions and decisions and policy and practices that take place within the workplace or in a business context. Simply, the definition is that ethics are standards of conduct that originate from some external group or source, and that could be society in general or business in particular. So the concepts of right and wrong, looking at fairness, equity, and justice. Know about the two key branches of business ethics or moral philosophy, and those are descriptive and normative ethics. Know how to identify both of those. Normative ethics deals with what ought to be and what should be in the term of business practices, and demands a more meaningful moral anchor than just everyone is doing it. The conventional approach to business ethics was introduced basically as the way that the average person in an organization or just person on the street would reason through ethical situations. The issue of ethics versus the law is a discussion that often arises in business ethics. And earlier we said that the ethical behavior is typically thought to reside above behavior required by the law. That's a generally accepted view of ethics. And just to make clear, however, that the law and ethics overlap and are intertwined. So you need to recognize that the law embodies notions of ethics, and that is, the law may be seen as a reflection of what society thinks are minimal standards of conduct and behavior. In the textbook, there is a Venn diagram, a Venn model for ethical decision making, and it was presented as an aid for making decisions when the economics, law, and ethics expectations might compete with each other. And the three models of management ethics presented are immoral management, moral management, and amoral management. And we'll talk about that in the next slide. So just know that the three models, immoral being that it's when a person in management understands right from wrong, and yet that person chooses to do wrong. Moral management pursues the objectives of profitability, legality, and ethics. And it does not pursue profits at the expense of law and sound ethics. Whereas amoral management is when someone pursues obedience to the law. Law is the ethical guide, but it's the model of ethical management in which managers fail to take morality into account when making decisions. The third type, amoral management, is further classified into intentional, amoral management, and unintentional. And so in the unintentional sense, managers lack ethical perception and moral answers. In other words, they just don't have moral sense. They don't think about business ethics in business activity in ethical terms. So it's good to know and understand how moral judgment develops in a person, and it has generally been accepted that moral judgment develops similar to the pattern that Kohlberg introduced and Lawrence Kohlberg, and those are 3 levels of moral management. They are the pre-conventional level, and at this level, the focus is mainly on self, and the conventional level, the focus is typically on others, and then it moves to the post-conventional or autonomous level, and the focus moves beyond others and who are of immediate importance to an individual, then to humankind as a whole. And these are there are different stages. Pre-conventional, there's reaction to punishment and seeking of rewards. At the conventional level, where the focus is on others, it's the good person, bad person, morality, and law and order morality. And then the third level, the post-conventional, there's a social contract orientation and universal ethical principle orientation. This won't be on your quiz, but I think it's worthy to note that there was a psychologist, Carol Gilligan, who offered an alternative to Kohlberg's model of moral development, and that was what she called an ethics of care. And also that her perception was that there were differences between the way men and women use perspectives as they perceive and deal with moral issues. So moving on there, in addition to considering the moral development as an explanation of how and why people behave ethically, is to look at different sources of a manager's or employee's values. And so one way to examine those values is to consider the forces that originate from outside the organization that shape or influence you, and those that emanate from within the organization. Here we'll focus on the sources external, and these are the web of values. So those that the source from which a manager derives values are religion, philosophical, cultural, and legal. So those are the highlights of of the chapter condensed into what I'd like for you to focus on in the quiz. Good luck.